For as long as I can remember, I've had this unshakable feeling that New Zealand was going to be the country that changed my life. I didn't know how and I didn't know when, but the pull was magnetic. Here we are, just packing up camp, because it's my first full day of biking on the North Island of New Zealand, but in reverse from Wellington all the way up to Cape Reda, so here we go. 2 years ago, I arrived here with a different dream. I wanted the van life. I bought the van and the surfboard and the aesthetic, but the van caused me so many headaches. I was terrible at surfing, and the ocean no longer called my soul the way the mountains did. I was chasing a version of myself that didn't exist. A year ago, I wouldn't have even called myself a cyclist, but I had a strong desire to give it a try. So I bought a road bike off Facebook Marketplace for $150, and everything shifted. That $150 purchase led to me completing a half Ironman distance triathlon. It led me to cycling 2,500 kilometers across Vietnam, and now it's led me here, biking the length of Aotearoa and finishing a 7,000 kilometer year. Well, I planned to go like 100 kilometers today, but we tapped out at 80 because I'm just feeling tired today. And I found some free camp spot. It is right next to the road, but it's a nice river over there. It's a great spot and it's free. And here we are having a lovely big bowl of ramen for dinner. What more could a girl want? I'm not gonna lie, today was a mentally tough day. And I don't even know why, really. It started off so well. I woke at a nice, calm campground. My day was mainly on nice cycle trails. 5 kilometers into my day, I met a really kind man who offered to buy my breakfast. It turns out he's a TA trail angel, and he's just one of those welcoming souls. But we even rode together for a short time, and I learned that he competed for New Zealand in cycling in the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, South Korea. So that was pretty cool. I guess I can say I cycled with an Olympian. But somewhere throughout the day, I really just hit a wall of just really not wanting to be on my bike anymore today, and just being tired, but not physically, more mentally, more emotionally. And I just don't really know why. Maybe it's because I just began a new island and things are different. My soul will always long for the South Island, but I'm excited to explore the North on a bike. It really does feel like a different world up here. The North Island often gets overlooked compared to the dramatic mountain landscapes of the South Island, and honestly, I was guilty of that too. Of the 2 years I spent calling New Zealand home, most of my time was spent on the South Island. I've always been drawn to the mountains, and I completely fell in love with it there. It felt more like home than anywhere else I've ever been. But one of the things I was most excited for on this bike journey was finally getting to experience the North Island properly. And if I'm being completely honest, I actually enjoyed riding across the North Island more than the South. Everything felt new. I had no idea what was waiting around each corner. While I mostly made my own way across the South Island, in the north I followed much of the Aotearoa cycling route, designed to take you off busy highways and onto some of the most beautiful cycling trails in the country. And of all the trails I rode across New Zealand, the Mountains to Sea Trail from National Park to Wanganui was easily one of my favorites. I rode it in reverse, cycling along the Wanganui River towards the snow-capped mountains of the North Island, and it became one of the most memorable parts of my entire journey, especially because I found my favorite campsite of the whole trip. So I'm staying at the Flying Fox campground tonight, but it's on the other side of the Wanganui River. Just wait till you see how we're getting there. I stumbled across the Flying Fox campground the day before I decided to ride the Mountains to Sea Trail, and when I learned that the only way to access it was by a cableway pulling you across the Wanganui River, I just knew I had to stay there. It already sounded so different from anywhere else I'd been. Loading all my bikepacking bags into a small cable car and being pulled across the river was an experience in itself. Oh my god, in the 2,000 some kilometers that I've biked across New Zealand and the countless nights I spent in a tent, this might actually be my favorite campground. This place is incredible. And to make it even more special, I was the only person staying at the campground that night. It was just me surrounded by lush green forests with this deep sense of peace. The campground even had its own little shop, which I was incredibly grateful for. I'm not really a drinker, I haven't been for years, but something about this bike trip made me crave an ice cold beer at the end of a long day, especially riding through the New Zealand summer heat, and that beer just hit different. When I arrived, I told the owners how special their place was, and how it was one of my favorite campgrounds of the entire journey. They casually mentioned it was actually for sale, and while I can barely afford to bike across New Zealand, let alone by land, it really stuck with me. Riding past homes, farms, and homesteads along the journey made me think a lot about what makes people choose where they settle, whether it's comfort, family, contentment, or simply knowing they're exactly where they're meant to be. Some people find everything they need in one beautiful place, and then there's people like me, always moving, always searching. Not stuck, just wired differently. It reminded me that there's no right way to live a life. We're all meant for different paths, and they're all valid.
A beautiful day, isn't it?
Such a nice day. Nice breeze out here.
Are you biking?
Yeah.
Which way?
That way.
Oh,
yeah.
All the way up to Hakune?
Yeah. Yeah. Big hill.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you.
The roads are good,
Yeah,
but it's just
lots of up.
the wind and the climb.
Yeah. No,
You'll
for
get
sure.
there all right.
Yeah. There is a tension in this journey. I often feel guilty. I'm biking on borrowed money in one of the most expensive countries in the world. I see the cafes and I know I should keep riding to save money. But the cafes are where the connection happens. It's where I meet locals and indulge their curiosity, or where I meet other cyclists who give me tips for the road ahead. It's the price of not being truly alone. I often dream of being a sponsored athlete, of being paid to pursue a life of adventure, and although I may be far off that dream, a year ago I bought a $15 helmet from Kmart and painted it purple, manifesting the very helmet I'm wearing today as I pedal across Aotearoa, gifted to me by Sweet Protection New Zealand. I was also gifted a pair of sunglasses for cycling by the brand Ombras, and a few weeks worth of dehydrated meals to keep me fueled by Radix Nutrition. So perhaps I haven't reached full sponsorship status, but I'm a lot closer than I was just a year ago. But most important of all, I cycled across New Zealand wearing a merino wool long sleeve that I designed and dyed myself, and dare I say, the first prototype of a bigger dream, to create plastic-free clothing with integrity that not only do good for the planet but also for the people that make them. And the first step in my dream of not only sponsoring my own big adventures and expeditions, but being able to sponsor women from around the world and empower them to chase their own wild dreams. I thought New Zealand would be where I'd make it big and find financial freedom. Instead, I'm leaving with debt I never could have fathomed, but maybe that's just the price of admission for the clarity I've found. While biking these hills, I launched my first ever business endeavor, hosting a women's ski touring trip in Kyrgyzstan this upcoming winter. And I managed to sell all the spots while pedaling 100 kilometers a day and sleeping in a tent every night. This project may only be in its infancy, but it's happening. I'm finally becoming my own boss. I'm just absolutely in awe right now. When I looked at my map today and saw that I only had like 300 meters of climbing to do over like 100 kilometers, probably my lowest elevation gain day yet, was so excited because I'm getting a little tired of the hills. I did not expect it to be this beautiful. Like, I get the best of both worlds. Mountain views with paved cycling paths. One of my favorite cycling trails for sure. The Waikato region is stunning. Just a wee roadblock here. The girls going in for their evening milking. Oh, it finally happened. 2,500 kilometers down, not a single flat, but we've got a little bit of sealant starting to pull out and a bit of a flat tire here. But honestly, tubeless is the greatest thing I could have ever done. But yeah, so now I get to learn how to fix this all by myself on the side of the trail. But honestly, that's how I like to learn, out in the real world. A few months before this trip, I felt an inexplicable pull to travel Vietnam, and only once I arrived did I feel this sudden urge to try biking across the country. I was terrified. I had never bike packed before. I didn't even own a bike, and I knew absolutely nothing about bike travel. I bought a bike for the equivalent of 200 Canadian dollars and just decided to go. Before that journey, I didn't even know how to fix a flat tire, but Vietnam is one of the best places in the world to learn. There's a mechanic on almost every corner. Over the more than 15 flat tires and a lot of trial and error, I slowly learned. And on the days when nothing went right, like walking 10 kilometers in the heat after running out of tubes, I met the most resilient version of myself. What that journey taught me is that the hardest part is always just beginning, and once you do, the road has a funny way of opening up. I've always been drawn to traveling, to seeing the world beyond what's familiar. Over the past decade, I've lived mostly out of a backpack, traveling across 6 of the 7 continents. At this point, only the elusive Antarctica escapes me. But traveling the world by bike, that's new for me this year, and I'm not sure I ever want to see it any other way. There's something powerful about moving at your own pace, only going as far and as fast as your legs will carry you. You're not rushing, you're not skipping over anything, you're fully immersed. Every day brings new questions. Where will I ride to? Where will I eat? Where will I sleep? And it reminds me that I don't need to have everything figured out. I just need to keep moving and trust that the rest will unfold exactly as it's meant to. For most people who cycle the length of New Zealand, or those even bolder who choose to walk it, 90 Mile Beach is often the starting point. But for me, it was my final day, the moment that marked the end of my ride. I'd heard plenty of stories about this stretch. Relentless headwinds, getting stuck waiting for the tide, struggling to make progress along the beach. But somehow for me, it became the easiest day of my entire journey. I was gifted the strongest tailwind I'd had the whole way, almost like a reward for the headwinds I battled at the very beginning of my ride in the South Island Spring. I could sit on my bike without pedaling and still be carried forward along the infamous 90 Mile Beach. I was having the absolute time of my life out there, so much so that I didn't want it to end. And as I rode, I spent a lot of time reflecting, not just on this journey, but on the past 2 years of calling New Zealand home, and everything this place and this adventure has given me. The hardest part is the becoming, that space where your vision is huge, but your reality hasn't synced up yet. As I made my way up the final climb to Cape Rena, I got emotional, not because it was hard, but because it signaled the end was near. 2 years ago, when I first landed in New Zealand, this lighthouse was the first place I visited. Coming back here on 2 wheels felt like a full circle, and the closing of a chapter I will so profoundly look back on for the role it played in shaping my life. I'm leaving this country with an empty bank account, but I've gained something money can't buy. I've gained resilience, I've learned that I'm not built for society's norms, and I found the one thing I was searching for: clarity. I'm not the girl who arrived here 2 years ago. I'm a cyclist, I'm a founder, and finally I know where I'm going.